This is the Alienware x14, Alienware's 14-inch thin and light premium laptop. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, shall we?
Alright, so I'm a little concerned because this is damaged here and it says inspected by. I don't know if this is a brand new laptop. It doesn't seem like it's brand new, but we'll take a look. Alright, so you have your laptop here, and this is one of the first Alienwares that actually uses a Type-C connector. So this has a full-on Type-C, doesn't use the original Alienware power adapters no more. So that's gonna be a little interesting. And then here it says we're game. I think that's it, that's in the box. Alright, here it is. There's the laptop. We have this. And alright, there it is. So we'll turn this on, play with it a little bit, and then we'll go over it.
Look at the side of the laptop. On the left side, there is nothing but an air vent. On the front of the laptop, you have nothing as well, not even speakers. On the right side, again, we have one air vent. And on the back, we have our air vent. We have our AC in / USB-C. This also supports DisplayPort, a headphone jack, HDMI 2.1, a USB Type-A, a micro SD card, and 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports along with the second vent. And of course the back has this super nice look to it with a glowing alien head. Now, is it thin? Why, yes it is. It's a little bit thicker than the new M2 MacBook Air, but this is definitely Alienware's thinnest laptop. It pains me to put this laptop on top of mine, but as you can see, it's quite a bit bigger than the MacBook Air, the new M2, and it's mainly because of this protrusion right here for the cooling / hinge. But otherwise, the laptop is pretty compact. In terms of overall build quality, this thing is built really well. There's no chassis flex at all. And the palm rest is also very, very strong. I'm really happy what Alienware is doing with their X series laptops because these things are built like tanks. Alienware claims that when you open the screen, it powers on. And it does. But unfortunately, look how long it takes just to turn on. It's still not on. There we go. Now it's turning on. And also the boot speed's a bit slow on these laptops. I don't know what happened, but the older laptops were a lot faster. Looking at the laptop bezels, the side bezels are very nice, except for this bottom part right here. I'm not a fan of how thick this is. It looks pretty bad. If they were able to cut this much off, I think it would look much better. On top, we have our 720p webcam. And then here we have our palm rest. And the biggest problem with this laptop is this palm rest is shifted downwards. So if this keyboard was up here and this was a little bit higher, it would be a lot easier to use. But because the trackpad is here, it's kind of hard to use. Speaking of trackpad, it's very smooth. It feels really nice and it's not too small. I mean, it's usable. There are much bigger trackpads out there today. We do have a full-size keyboard, and then we have some function keys here. We'll have a power button, which is not a fingerprint reader, unfortunately. We do have a mic mute button, a speaker mute button, and then the volume rockers are here. In terms of the keyboard, the key travel is 1.2 millimeter, but it's actually not bad. And it's certified for cats, apparently. Speaking of speakers, there's one here and there's one here, and we'll talk about how they sound in a second. The 720p Windows Hello camera is quite fast, actually. Speaking of camera, this is how it looks. Now, my room is decently lit up, and yeah, this quality is not great at all. 720p. Oh, and this is the audio, of course, from the webcam as well. In terms of display, the display is actually pretty good. It's a 1080p 144Hz display. And the viewing angles are actually really good. So as you can see from here, shifting up and down, it looks pretty nice. Now it has 100% DCI-P3 and 100% sRGB color space. The display does support Dolby Vision, but keep in mind if you calibrate the display and you overwrite the original profile, you will lose your Dolby Vision support, which is unfortunate. So if you calibrate it, you do lose it from my experience. For HDR, it does support HDR, but it's only for video playback. It's not for full HDR mode like some monitors, so I wouldn't really consider it a fully HDR certified display. In terms of sound, let's have a listen. My cat wants to listen too. For comparison, here's the original 2011 M14X, Alienware's first 14-inch laptop for sound. So clearly, the original laptop from 2011 actually sounds better than the new one. One reason is because the old one has a subwoofer and the new one doesn't. But this is not an excuse for these manufacturers. The M2 MacBook Air sounds better than this laptop, and it's a smaller laptop. Alienware, please add a subwoofer to your laptops. Even the new M18, be sure to subscribe because I have that coming, also lacks a subwoofer. It has two 2-watt speakers and no subwoofer. I don't understand what's going on with these manufacturers, but the sound itself is not bad. It's just that it lacks that low end to make it sound fuller. It sounds kind of tiny, so that's unfortunate. But this is a super thin 14-inch laptop. I do not want that to be the case for the 18-inch laptop, which it's sounding like it's going to be. Alright, so in terms of serviceability, you have the screws that you need to remove here. So basically, once you remove these screws, alright, so with all the screws removed, here's what you get. So, as you can see, the battery's huge, and the CPU and GPU are soldered, so you can replace them. So you have your fans here, you can remove them to test them out. The only two things you can upgrade, Wi-Fi card and the M.2 SSD. Now, I upgraded the Wi-Fi card to the AX411, and Big Intel, their installer doesn't let you use the double connect feature because this is not a vPro certified laptop. So don't waste your money to get a 411 like I did. It's useless. When Wi-Fi 7 comes out, then it'll be worth it. But yeah, that's the only two things you can upgrade. Everything else is not upgradable, unfortunately. In terms of accessories, this is the mouse from Alienware. I'll put a link in the description. But it matches the laptop, and it feels pretty good. So that's something you might want to look into. Alright, so this doesn't have an official carrying case, unfortunately, which is weird. But you could get this one, which is made for the 13-inch Alienware that's discontinued. I'll put a link in the description. This actually fits the laptop perfectly, and this little cover right here covers the backside. And then just do that. And as a bonus, there's a spot right here for you to put the charger. So it actually fits everything, the charger and that, and it's ready to go. Alright, next, let's go ahead and listen to the fan noise. This is a combined test, so both CPU and GPU are under noise. And as you can already hear, it's pretty noticeable and loud. Onto some benchmarks, starting with Temps. As you can see, we got over 13,000 CPU score and over 6,700 graphics score. On Firestrike, we got over 17,000 graphics score and over 26,000 physics score. So the laptop's performing pretty nicely, but that 3060 definitely shows that it's not a full power one. Looking at Geekbench, 1719 single core score and over 13,000 multi-core score. The CPU is definitely thermothrottling in Geekbench, and it is definitely thermothrottling in Cinebench R23 because it's getting 15,000 here, and it should perform slightly higher than this, but the CPU is always at 100, which you'll see soon in a second here. And looking at temperatures, the CPU basically hit 100 degrees on every benchmark besides Firestrike. Now, what's interesting is the GPU was only in the mid to high 60s during these benchmarks. This goes to show that the CPU itself runs way too hot, but the GPU runs pretty good. Now, moving on to gaming performance, at 1080p max settings, you can pretty much play any game you want with this setup. 1080p with a 3060, you'll get over 60 frames. And for esports titles such as Overwatch 2, we're getting 156 frames, so we can take advantage of that 144Hz display. And of course, 100 degrees Celsius on the CPU in every single game. And the GPU is in the mid to high 70s. So again, the CPU just keeps thermothrottling, and the GPU performs quite well. Looking at battery life, I was able to get 7 hours on the X14, which is actually pretty impressive, considering that on my MacBook Air M2 I get around a little over 9 hours. Now compared to the Asus G14 and the Razer Blade 14, the battery life is actually not bad. Alright, so now we need to talk about the elephant in the room. This is the X14 R1, and if you've seen CES, the R2 is coming out probably in a few weeks after this video is posted. But there's something important that we need to talk about. The R1 has a 12700H 14-core CPU. The R2 has a 13620H 10-core CPU. So technically the CPU in this laptop is actually faster than the one in the newer laptop. However, because it always throttles, I don't know, maybe I just need to repaste mine. Maybe I got a bad sample. But it throttles a lot, so it makes sense that why they downgraded it. The other thing to note is this has a 1080p 144Hz display with a 3060. The new laptop is going to have a 4060, which will be faster than this, but it has a Quad HD 165Hz display. The problem with that is because it has higher pixels, you're going to need a more powerful GPU to push those frames. So theoretically, I don't think the R2 is really going to be an upgrade from the R1. So if you can find one of these R1s for cheap like I did, I highly recommend getting these because these are really nice. Of course, if you can get an R2 for a similar price, just go for the R2. As I mentioned, I got this for $12.99 on Black Friday. And these were on sale for $13.99 on Best Buy. After Black Friday, there was like some period of time. They come and go. They go on sale. Like, check Best Buy and check Dell.com. Two websites where these always go on sale. If not, you can get the new one. The new one is literally the same exact thing as this. Speakers are the same. The build is pretty much the same. There's small differences. Like the bottom has like the new V-rail, not the V-rail, the feet that's like a whole square. But overall, the design's really similar. Well, anyways, with that said, this is probably one of my most favorite portable laptops I've actually ever owned, and I've owned a lot of laptops. With that said, subscribe because I have the M18 coming, hopefully, don't know when, it's coming with the 4090, so it's delayed. But yeah, we'll go over that laptop next. Subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.